to the wider market.
Okay, Bill, thank you. Well, finally, is your phone a status symbol? Are you more extrovert, more likely to manipulate others for personal gain? If so, controversially, there's a better chance that you're an iPhone user than an Android type. And that's not a sweeping generalisation. It's psychological research recently published in the journal Cyber-Psychology, Behaviour and Social Networking. The researchers have built a mathematical model that looks at someone's personality, their age and their gender to predict whether they own an iPhone or an Android device. Now, the model is apparently about 70% accurate, and it could have implications for marketing and also helping us choose a phone that best suits our character, maybe even helping an employer work out if you're the best person for the job. Well, I've been hearing more from David Ellis, psychology lecturer at Lancaster University in England.
We've conducted previous research looking at how people view iPhone and Android users, so I guess this study was partly motivated in order to see if those stereotypes were actually true or not. But secondly, I mean, there's a lot of research on there about how we leave digital traces behind in terms of the technology we use. So, for example, how people use their smartphone can reveal a lot of information about them. But we were interested to see if that trace actually begins at the point where you buy your smartphone. So can the type of device provide clues about the owner?
So you've gone on to put a whole load of data together. What have you found in this research?
We found that iPhone owners were more likely to be female, younger, and rate themselves as more extroverted and slightly less honest in comparison to Android users. But they also viewed their smartphone as more of a status object and were less concerned about owning devices favoured by most people.
Was there a similar kind of profile, but maybe in reverse, for Android users?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it's worth saying that these are quite small differences between quite large groups, but in a second study, we were able to develop a very simple algorithm that could ask people a few simple questions and predict what type of smartphone they were likely to own. And we found that our algorithm was about 70% accurate.
Your sample size, I think, was just over 500, so this really is an infinitesimal fraction of the overall user base for smartphones, isn't it? Can we really draw that many conclusions from this research?
Well, that's right, and our sample was largely UK-based, and that's worth keeping in mind. It's worth keeping in mind as well that these are quite small differences, so, you know, it's not impossible that someone owns an iPhone who is male, over 65 and very introverted. Those people do exist. You're just looking at subtle differences in these populations, if you like. But it is telling that when you add those small differences together, you can get quite an accurate prediction of what someone's likely to own.
Is it a case of, well, so what? It's a psychological study, it's great for academics. Does this have meanings, implications?
Many people believe that advertising doesn't work on them, but our results actually suggest that it's probably quite effective. So, I mean, Apple is sort of marketed or viewed as a young and exciting brand. And we found that iPhone users are indeed younger and more extroverted than Android users. So, I mean, our results could help people choose a technology that fits them better. And I guess for people who want to sell smartphones, those findings might help predict what somebody might own in the future. I think there's a slightly more serious point in that, you know, as I said earlier, you know, there's this issue of digital traces that we leave behind. But this research suggests that it's not just about how you use a device or what websites you visit. That digital trace might actually start as soon as you buy a device. So you're actually giving away something about yourself without necessarily realising it.
Did you find anything from your studies about why people might favour one type of phone over the other?
Well, interestingly, there's some kind of tentative research that sort of suggests, you know, that people who buy iPhones might be of a higher socioeconomic status than people who buy Androids. But actually, we didn't find any differences in socioeconomic status between the two groups. So, I mean, there's probably room there for a lot more research as to exactly why people are buying specific devices. We didn't ask that, really. We just looked for the differences between these two groups at a psychological level. We didn't necessarily ask, why did you buy this device?
Might there be privacy implications? You know, you put your phone out on the table in a bar or cafe and people immediately might be able to draw conclusions about your personality type.
Yeah, potentially. I guess some things are maybe more straightforward because you'll probably realise whether they're male or female already before they put their phone down. But there's potential to go a bit further with this. So, I mean, our model was about 70% accurate, but we were kind of using quite dated statistics, if you like. I mean, we've actually made all the data from this study freely available, so people who are maybe more mathematically minded might be able to build a model that's even more accurate. It's worth saying, though, that, you know, 70% is certainly above chance, but there's still huge room there in terms of it being 100% accurate, and that's a much bigger challenge.
And that's David Ellis. So, Android or iPhone? Listener Clive Potter says, my phone is a trusty Nokia 6210 running Symbian. I've just given it a new lease of life by installing the Opera browser. What do you think, Bill?
I remember Symbian. I'm so fond of it. So I have a psychology degree, which makes me a dangerous person to talk to about psychology because, and as we heard there, and David was quite frank about it, these are preliminary results and the numbers are not that impressive. But if we look back and say what they're trying to do, it is interesting because we do need, if like the discipline of psychology to engage with technology in this way. We do need this sort of stuff to be something that is a proper subject of research, and it hasn't really been up till now. So I think the idea, we can tell what phone you're going to buy, iPhone or Android, is less interesting than we can begin to identify psychological characteristics in larger populations that are related to your choice and use of technology. Because we really do need to understand, and not just for marketing purposes.
And I just wonder, in general, just that we can pull together, big data analytics, for instance, and get loads of information about a user, the apps they use. It's a rich seam of data. But privacy worries?
No, because this is
not
about
from this research, but just in general,
psychological research.
We can infer.
But I want to put those to one side. I think what's important is that the discipline of psychology engages properly with this stuff. And so I applaud David Ellis for actually starting to do that along with other people. So the privacy issues don't matter because this is proper peer-reviewed psychological research and it deserves to be supported. I look forward to seeing it getting better, bigger sample sizes, more valid and useful results.
And at that point, we'll leave it. Bill, thank you very much indeed for that. That was Click for this week, whatever your personality type. But I'm Gareth Mitchell. I'm very nice, and the producers...